I'm going to introduce Sage Yazzie. Sage Yazzie. Sage is a local business owner and recent graduate of Western Colorado University. He was born and raised in Longmont, Colorado, but spent most summers growing up in Ganado, Arizona on the Navajo Nation reservation. After losing his father at 17, Sage promised to return to Alaska where his earliest and happiest memories of his father occurred. This was delayed by 5 years of playing for the highly successful Western Colorado University D2 football program. Amidst school and football, he began his journey as a business owner with Native Nature LLC, a commercial media company planted in the outdoor industry that is now entering a brand transition to outdoor and mental health films. Sage's first large-scale project will be documenting his drive from Navajo Nation, Arizona to Anchorage, Alaska this summer, as well as telling his story of major loss and prosperity to the backcountry growing up in Colorado. Let us give it up for Sage Yazzie.
Ike yate Sage Yazzie Yinishne Bilagana Nishne Kia Ani Bashishi Tsenchikine Deshinali Bilagana Deshiche. Unlike these amazing speakers and the scholarship recipients, I am not a writer. I tell my stories in a little bit of a different way through film. I'm very passionate about the outdoors and the mental health scene. And in spirit of the festival, I'm going to tell you guys my story and how I got to where I am. I just want to say a huge thank you to my family and friends that are watching, especially my mom. I would not be here or who I am today without her, so thank you, Mom. Take a sip of water. Anytime you see me do this, it's because I'm really nervous. So. Okay. So this is the Navajo Reservation. Like they said, I am born and raised in Longmont, Colorado, but most of the summers I spent growing up was in Ganado on the Navajo Nation. Here's a little picture of right behind my house. It is filled with red dirt, pine, cedar, and sage, as you could probably see where I got my name from. It is a beautiful and quiet scene that I go to often as I can to get closer with myself, but also my culture. From a young age, I definitely had some identity issues growing up, half white and half Navajo. My mom is blonde hair and blue-eyed, so that is kind of weird, especially in Colorado where there's not a large population of indigenous as well as Diné. So I grew my hair out, as you do. I spent a lot of time on the res. Here's a Halloween costume that my dad made me when I was little, and that was how it kind of got started. My mom was a teacher, an English teacher and psychology teacher. She taught at Ganado High School, where she ended up meeting my dad. They got out of town real quick, as my dad had a hard time growing up there. As any of you know, growing up on a reservation is not easy. Even by the age I was 5, I had lost 2 uncles and a cousin. Whether it's substance abuse, suicide, it is very prevalent on the Navajo Reservation. And that is a reason that later in college I wanted to study clinical psychology, is because I wanted to be a therapist. That has since changed a little bit, but I'll get into that a little bit later. So from a very early age, my dad loved the outdoors. As soon as we moved to Colorado, he took me everywhere. In my bio, one of my happiest and earliest memories is a trip we took out to Anchorage. I must have been 4 or 5 at the time, and I remember it extremely vividly. It was just all smiles. It was during the summer solstice, so you can imagine a 5-year-old being up at 3 in the morning trying to play in the backyard and getting mad while not knowing why my parents wanted me to go to bed. So he loved fishing. Anytime we went camping, he was making sure to show me how to do everything. Even when we were back on the res, he would take me back chopping wood, cleaning up the house, all that type of stuff. As I got into middle school and high school, I grew a little bit apart from my dad. Once you gain that little older consciousness, you see the problems within your family and around your family. My dad was a severe alcoholic. He was never physically abusive, but mentally that was extremely hard on me and my mom. My mom would send him away to go work. He was a construction worker, so that could really be anywhere, and sometimes he would go for months at a time, weeks at a time. I wasn't really sure when he was going to be around. As I got into high school, obviously I saw this as more prevalent, and with an immature mind of my own, I didn't understand that it was just something that he could not change. It was hard to not resent him for that, as he was hurting my mother and me mentally, like I said, not physically in any type of way, but with his family, my 4 amazing sisters. He showed the love where he could, but he had an issue that was rising and rising quickly. So I played a lot of sports in high school. I wasn't really home much. The one thing that I could always be consistent with was him always being there for my games. It was the sports connection. He played with all of his brothers. It was something that was near and dear to our family. And it was something that we always connected in besides the outdoors. So he was always there when he could be. And my senior year was catching up. I've been super distant from him, and it was the first summer that I kind of got some time away from sports and got to spend some more time doing what I chose to do, which was being outdoors. And, you know, for some reason, I just had a change of heart that summer going into my senior year where I thought me and him should reconcile and that I should just accept who he is. Because, you know, when he was around and when he was sober, he always showed me love, my family love, my mother love. So I couldn't look down on him for that. And we started hanging out a little bit more. We went fishing a few times. We went hiking a little bit. He has really bad knees, so he had a hard time doing all that, even being only about 45. So we took the chances that we could, and I really felt like we reconnected and started a close bond again. So about 4 games into my senior year of football, I had a great junior season. I was looking at colleges to play for. My senior year, I switched from receiver to quarterback. I had an entire team to attempt to lead. As you can tell, I'm not a great public speaker, or at least from a nervous perspective. Sometimes it's hard to muster up the words, and especially lead by example. Leaders are sought after to be perfect, and after everything that I've been through sports, my family, and everything, that's farthest from the truth. You can find inspiration in anybody you find, even if they have more than half is bad. There's always positive lessons to be learned. And my 4th game of my senior year, I always come home before home games. I have like 2 hours before I have to be back at the school, and my dad was always there my high school career, and he wasn't there that day, and I just knew something was off. I couldn't get a hold of anybody. I had to leave for the game. When I got to the stadium, I asked my coach to pray for me. I'm not a religious man, but it just was a weird feeling in my stomach. And I eventually got a call about 20 minutes before our game from my mom saying that my dad was in the hospital and that we would go see him right after. And nothing on my mom. It was just bad timing to where I couldn't mentally go forward. I had the worst game of my entire career. And as soon as the game was over, we got absolutely killed. It was terrible. But right after the game, I sprinted to the locker room, grabbed all my stuff, changed as quickly as I can, to not let my teammates see me, in tears and also not know what's going on. And I got to the hospital, and he was in extreme kidney and liver failure. They found out after about 2 days that there was nothing they could do, and it was just going to be a slow process of letting him pass. So for the next 2 weeks, about 2.5 weeks, I slept in a hospice chair right next to my dad. I only went to class and practice. I would go to the minimal amount of class I could to be able to practice and play games. And it was really hard. I didn't really sleep. I had a lot of family there, which was nice, but it was really tough, especially to actually leave the hospital and, go spend time with my friends or just at least get home for some sleep. It was really tough. And about 3 weeks in, he was completely nonverbal. He could definitely hear, but he couldn't speak or anything like that. And it was a blessing and a curse, because as people know, as you lose a family member, you'd much rather see it in the early stages rather than something sudden as you get to say everything that you wanted to, which I did. And one of those things was promising my dad that I would go back to Alaska where our earliest memories were. And he thought that was pretty funny and kind of stupid as I would go by myself. But the only night that I felt like I could finally rest and go home was homecoming. My whole family, my friends were begging me to go to homecoming, and for whatever reason, I felt like that was the right move, is to, clear my head and maybe get a good night's rest or not. We'll see. But I ended up going to homecoming. I thought about it, going back to the hospital once I got there, once we were finished with homecoming. But I was like, I'm already home. The hospital's a few blocks away. I can go to sleep and see him in the morning. And I woke up the next morning about 7 a.m. with about 15 family members that were all in town, just sitting at my bedside. No one said nothing. We all knew. And that was really hard. That was kind of a shift in where my life began as, just some kid in the family that got the opportunity to grow up off the res to kind of someone that my family looks up to. My uncle, everyone, my entire family was in shambles as you are losing a loved one at such a young age. And that was hard. This is a picture from the funeral. It was a eclipse that night, so my Nolly, of course, is yelling at us to get back in the house because that's taboo and not allowed in Navajo culture. But me and my 3 uncles are still out there playing basketball just because, you never know when you're going to see your family like that again. And it was more for my dad. So with the leadership part coming out of it, of feeling like the support in my family was kind of running through me, at 17 years old, they asked me to do the eulogy as well as be a pallbearer, which in Navajo culture, you not only lower the person into the ground, but you grab a shovel and do the deed as well as that. And in light of the Storycatcher Festival and that I'm not a writer and have only wrote a handful of things, that is not for school and that it's not passionate, I am going to read you the eulogy I wrote at 17. But I'm going to take a nervous sip of water first. Firstly, I'd like to thank everyone for coming today. These past few weeks have been bearable without the people in this room and many others. The amount of love, support, and care my family and I have received during this difficult time has been more than ever thought possible. I now know the enormous amount of individuals that I can lean on in tough times, and I hope that all of you and the rest of them know that you have me to lean on as well. Something I'm not going to ask, but rather expect, is that we should not put one person in this room a step backwards. In fact, this should push us all a few steps forward, because we have another loved one watching everything we do with front row seats and probably Piccadilly in both hands. Albert Lee Yazzie, you were an amazing cook, mechanic, coach, artist, tailor, plumber, exterminator, you name it. But most importantly, you were a father of 5 and loved every single child to the farthest extent you could. And even though I'm very thankful that I've gotten the last 17 years of my life, I still wish that my 4 amazing sisters got to share all those great memories with me, because they deserved it. And I will always look up to Audrey, Tasha, Brooke, and Paige for the amount of courage and perseverance they had to excel in their lives without the circumstances given. I would also like to tip my hat to Jerry and Sarah for raising such wonderful women. Now, my dad had his issues, and everyone has something. But even with his drinking, he was funny, wise, helpful, and the most loving person I had ever met. He rarely ever missed one of my games. He made sure that I was always going down the right path. And most importantly, made sure I felt loved every single day I saw him. If that was a hug, a kiss, an I love you, or even his signature wet willy, I knew that he loved me with every bone in his body. And growing up, it was the little things that made our relationship so significant. He always used to make my Halloween costumes straight from scratch, and they amazed me every time he thought of an idea and brought it to life. Or when we would wrestle for hours, getting all sweaty, and then having to stop because my mom thought he was being too rough with me. And all those fishing trips. For some people, fishing is really boring, and after an hour, you could usually say that's it, and not the same for my dad. Every time we go, it didn't matter if we caught anything or not. We always had the best time. Just this summer, my dad dragged me all the way out to Parachute, Colorado, 5-hour drive, for one night, just not to catch one damn fish. And you know what? I loved every second of it. Now, I think the hardest part of these last few weeks is the fact that I knew I could have wrote this speech before he had even passed. I think the best part of these last few weeks is the fact that I could have wrote, and what I mean by that is he could have been in a car accident, had a stroke, even been stabbed again. And that would have been it. But instead, I got to say to him everything I wanted to, and then some. A few of his last words were included is butthead, show off, and I love you, say Drew. So to you, Shijit, Albert Lee, Yazzie, we all know you're watching over us in a better place, and we're all so thankful to have called you our loved one. We love you so much. May your soul rest in peace. Ahyet. So I finished out my senior season, very decent in my taste at least. I was thinking about colleges. I was split between the University of San Diego and Western, with all the outdoor and connections I had being closer to my mom, who still lived in Longmont at the time, and also being a little bit closer to Ganado, being able to visit there often. It was kind of no-brainer. But after my visit, I took 2 visits out to University of San Diego, and right after those, I took my visit to Western, and I committed within 24 hours of being in Gunnison. For one, it's a beautiful place. As Byron mentioned yesterday, as Diné, we fall in love with our natural environments. Me personally, I think this is just human nature. I think it is in everyone, but especially for us, as there is not much else. And it is the quiet peace. There's a lot of crime, murder, substance abuse, everything you can think of, and having that serenity around you is something to keep you comfort. And I've always held that near dear to my heart. So it was a pretty easy decision. The people here as well are just amazing. I felt extremely welcome. I did not feel at home in Longmont, Colorado. I felt the people there weren't as real or genuine or were putting on a face to impress other people. And people at Western and in Gunnison are just genuine people that are trying to be themselves and do what they love. And it was just a community that I couldn't say no to. Then COVID hit. So my dad passed away in October. I finished out football season. My basketball season was cut short because of COVID, and then that was it. I was just kind of by myself with my own thoughts. I couldn't see my friends. I didn't have a therapist at the time, so it was just kind of me and my mom at the house and my grandma as well. And this was, I guess, the perfect opportunity to get in touch with the outdoors, which exploded, especially when I got to Western. As soon as COVID hit, I was doing everything from fly fishing, backpacking, hiking, anything you can think of. I was even winter hammock camping in my backyard. Was that for the love of the game or just being emotional? I don't know. It was fine. I did it again when I got up here at Western, and that was a little more enjoyable. My first 2 years at Western, I redshirted. We also had still COVID, so it was kind of like a 2-year grace period to get used to college and the experience, which got me a lot of opportunities to meet new people. We'll go outside a lot. I went on my first backpacking trip very quickly after redshirting, and it was a good time. My dad's birthday is on the 4th of July, so it's always a celebration when he was alive and after he passed, and I would spend every year after he passed away back home on the reservation. We usually did it back in Longmont, but it just felt more right to me to spend it with my family in Ganado, and especially that you could light whatever fireworks you want. So 2 years, going into my junior year, I went back to Ganado for my dad's birthday. I'd always wanted a dog. My mom didn't like dogs. My grandma didn't like dogs, who also lived with us. And I found this guy. The day of I drove up the day of my dad's birthday, that morning, and he was by himself on our little plot of land. Dogs at least on the reservation, it's a lot different. They're not usually allowed inside. You feed them scraps. They're not usually treated with as much respect as in Western culture. But this guy was by himself. We sometimes take litters in at our house just to keep the cattle away or stuff like that, little safety feature. And he was by himself, which is kind of weird. Usually, especially at this young, there's usually 5 or 6. And my Nolly, who was living in that house at the time, she told me that he was dropped off with about 7 to 8 other dogs, and about 2 weeks later, he was the only one left. So whether that was hawks, coyotes, whatever you can think of, he was the only one still alive. And now that I didn't live with my mom anymore, I didn't have to ask her permission to take a dog with me. So it just felt like a match made in heaven. The first day I met him, I always hike about 2 miles into the back of our property to hammock and just be in a quiet space without any service. And I turn around about halfway to my hike there, and he's just right behind me, following me, tripping over my feet. I didn't ask him to come. I didn't think he was coming, and he just followed me everywhere I went. I fell asleep in that hammock for about 3 hours, and I woke up, and he was asleep right underneath my hammock. So that just gave me zero doubt that I was going to take this dog home. I named him Wayopi, which was my dad's nickname growing up, but we just call him Hopi. A lot of my roommates call him Opioid because he's got a lot of energy. But he loved the outdoors as much as I did. I took him on a backpacking trip maybe 2 weeks after I got him. It could have been a week. We did 30 miles on Storm Pass right outside of Gunnison. It was an absolute blizzard at the top. I don't have a picture of that, but I mean, he just trudged through it. I never put him on a leash. He was just right behind me the whole time. Slept nice and sound in the backpacking tent, and I just knew that this was my outdoor buddy for life. Since then, we've done a lot of activities. He comes with me everywhere. I fly fish very frequently, and he comes on all those adventures. I even took him backcountry skiing / snowboarding once, and he has just been, my rock, especially in the outdoors. There's definitely a yin and yang to being alone and being with your own thoughts, as well as being with somebody else and having some type of companionship, whether that's a friend or a dog. I think that's important to create that balance, no matter how much you love the outdoors. That following year, hold on. I was just thirsty that time. That following year, I got a coveted internship with the Gore-Tex brand. It was through the outdoor education major out here. I am a outdoor rec minor, but they had a internship with Canberra Outdoors, which is for underrepresented communities, in mostly marketing, which was weird because I was a clinical psych major, so I'm not sure how I even got it. But I spent the entire summer with Gore-Tex and their North American marketing team, learning from some of their higher ups and some absolutely amazing people teaching me all about marketing, Gore-Tex, the history behind it, and led me on a bunch of projects there. It was a great time. Since it was only a summer internship, I met Oakpool, which is their third-party marketing agency that does everything for their North American stuff. And they asked me when I was working on a project with them if I would take an internship with them after my stint with Gore-Tex, and I accepted, of course, because I didn't know what I was doing in the middle of junior year of college. And I've been with them ever since. That was about 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. And they do everything in the outdoor industry, which is, I mean, I couldn't say no. We work with a bunch of fly fishing brands, whether it's outdoor fly fishing lodges, companies in the fly fishing industry. We also do some stuff with product brands. We still do Gore-Tex, of course. They are great people to work with. But yeah, they've been an absolute support. And since all this has been remote, I can kind of still be in the outdoors, and that's the ethos of this company and why I appreciated them so much. About 3 months into my internship, they hired me, and the way that their system works is they wanted me to file my own LLC just for tax reasons, but I thought this was a perfect opportunity to start my own business, which is where Native Nature got started. So I've always been a fan of photography and videography, especially when I was by myself in COVID. I just took photos and videos of everything I was doing because I just thought it was beautiful, and it was kind of my way to express myself. So it was kind of in tandem when I started working at Oakpool that I started taking more photos and videos. I took it a little more seriously, and by maybe year 1 or 2, they started getting me gigs with some of our clients to do photo and video work. I still do that, the advertising, website builds and all stuff for them now, but it's transitioning a little bit more into the media production work through Native Nature, which I could not be more thankful. I know some of my coworkers are watching right now, so I can't be more thankful for them as well. So that was about 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago. Since then, been working with some amazing brands like Gosling's Rum, W Sauce, Worcestershire is actually on Western's football field. Did something for a Super Bowl promotion that they had, which was pretty cool. I even, along the way, made some merch. People liked the logo and, you know, kind of the brand idea of the outdoors and connecting those together. So I started doing hats, t-shirts, stickers, and especially in Gunnison, you're going to find support from anyone that brings interest to you. We sell in Power Stop currently. Great owners over there. I can't thank them enough either. Everyone has just been so supportive, and I'm so thankful that I started my company here in Gunnison, because part of that is just networking, and the people here are so personable. Everyone knows somebody, and they'll introduce it to you, and they'll take you into your home, and that's something I'll get into a little bit more later about starting a brand. So last February, my Nolly, my grandmother on my dad's side, had passed away. She was the one that taught me everything about my culture. My uncles and my dad were pretty keen, all fluent, but there was some holes there, and she was extremely sound in everything and would teach me everything I could visit. And that's why I wanted to visit so much in college, because I knew that her time was limited. And unfortunately, I did not get the time. I hadn't seen her in almost a year at this point. So that was very hard, and something that hit me culturally, especially because she had just so much knowledge. And it's something I will always regret, is not being with her more and, you know, writing stuff down and keeping more attention to detail, and moving forward is something I'm not gonna let regret anymore. After that, I spent some more time in the outdoors, doing more work with Native Nature, and then came up this past fall where it was my senior year, but I did have another year of eligibility due to COVID. So even if I played this year, I could have played next year. And that was a decision I had to make. This was my 5th year of school and football. My body was kind of done, and I had a career that I was satisfied with. And I just wasn't sure which direction to go, even after the season was over, which we had an amazing historical season, which I could not be more thankful to my teammates and my brothers for life that I've met along the way. They're a huge reason that I love this place so much, and I can't wait to reconnect later down the road. And then in about December/January, my mother's dad became ill. He was a lot older. He was about 85. And he got put into hospice as well. This was a time where I had already had enough loss and regret with my grandmother and know what it feels like with my dad to have the satisfaction of, spending those last moments with your loved ones. So I went back home to Denver where he was staying, and I visited him as much as I could. He also loved the outdoors. He was a huge traveler. So I took him outside anytime I could, and chatted the same way I did with my dad. It was it was really the exact same way, where over the course of, 2 to 3 weeks, he slowly lost verbal communication, but could still hear. But that still gives you the opportunity to tell them that everything you wanted to. And I was extremely thankful for that. The only difference is this time I did not leave. I tried to stay by his side especially when we knew we were getting closer to the end. I'd spent all morning with him, and then we went for dinner, and he was with my aunt. My aunt was just like, I have a weird feeling. His breaths are getting slower, and I'm not sure what's going to happen. So we went back to the hospice later that night, and about 30 minutes after we all got there, all holding his hands, having a hand on him, he took his last breath in front of all of us. And as scarring as I may sound, I would not have it any other way. He was always there for me, and he was somewhat opposite of my dad. My dad liked being alone, and I'm sure that's why he passed when no one was around. But my grandfather on my mom's side was the other way. He liked having people around, and it was just something that I will always cherish. After that happened, I knew from a mental standpoint that I wanted to do something with Native Nature that was more in line with my degree, clinical psychology. I originally wanted to be a therapist, outdoor therapist or wilderness therapy, because growing up I was never able to really talk to a therapist, and it was extremely hard for me to just sit in an office, especially a chair, with being how energetic I am, to talk about my feelings. And when I was in the outdoors, even with just a buddy or even by myself, it was easier for me to process those things, especially if I was doing something else like fly fishing. And I wanted to create an outlet for people that could also do that, or that were built in the same way that they couldn't sit in an office and talk to a therapist. So after my grandfather passed away, it was kind of a no-brainer. That was kind of the decision point where I'm not going to go play football. I love football. It was a great passion for so many years, but it's not what I felt like I was meant to do. This is where I had the idea to kind of transition my commercial media production into connecting the outdoors and mental health in a different way, in that I would have to get a master's and doctorate, which would take me a lot more of school. I'm definitely not ready for it now, but maybe in a few years. So this is where I started the No Rain, No Flowers campaign with Native Nature. It is a mental health and outdoor awareness campaign centered around telling people stories of their connection for the outdoors and the therapy that it brings, as well as their hardship and prosperity through that. My big first project that they mentioned earlier is going to be myself documenting my drive from Ganado on the Navajo reservation to Anchorage, Alaska, originally where that happy and earliest memories of my dad occurred. Here's a picture of us on the right in Anchorage. I have a plethora of pictures that once I get up to Anchorage, I'm going to go and try and find those exact spots. But it's just going to be me and my dog Opie on that journey. Going to do it over the course of a month from July through August, and then I'll live in Anchorage, get a rental or something. Maybe not. I don't know. For a few months, definitely not staying in the winter solstice. I cannot do the dark. But yeah, more or less telling the story I told you guys today, as well as highlighting the importance of mental health. And if you aren't able to get the help that you need through traditional services, that the outdoor and wilderness therapy is a great option. So with that, I have the No Rain, No Flowers campaign, which is raising money towards the making of the film, as well as 25% of proceeds are going to the Sky's the Limit Fund, which is a financial service that helps families and adolescents that can't afford it get into wilderness therapy. They're a great fund. They have a bunch of connections. They've been around a long time, and this just felt like the right nonprofit to support as I go along. With that being said, I'm also doing apparel as well for the No Rain, No Flowers campaign. It's really easy to create a business and a brand off of something that you're passionate about, and I could not encourage more people to really chase their dreams. Not starting is half of it. That might sound cliche, but I really believe that, especially in the business world, being personable and just being able to ask for help when you need it, especially finding mentors, especially here, is just it's a great way to live. And from a mental standpoint, I can't be more thankful of the journey I've taken and where I am today, and all the people, including my mentors, my family, my teachers, everyone, for getting me to this place, because I would not be there without anybody else. So thank you.